going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 27 of the Nati Pod. I'm your host, Ryan Townsend. Thanks again so much for joining me. Big apologies goes out to all you guys, all my fans. This spring semester with baseball and schoolwork has been crazy. I haven't been able to get a podcast out. Just been following my stuff on Twitter, trying to do as best I can. I actually recently just showed up in one of my buddies' podcasts, Kings of Queen City, Jake Wisman and Eli Nagel. I talked about the Bengals free agency and the Reds, so if you guys get a chance, go check that out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Kings of Queen City. They do a fantastic job. But today, I'm back. I'm excited. 2 weeks from today, NFL draft in Cleveland. I'm stoked. I'm excited about it, and we got to talk about it because there's a huge argument with the Bengals. What are we going to do at pick 5? To do that, to help me out, I got two of my better friends, Gavin Kohler and Mark Verdes, two of my guys who are huge on the NFL, huge on the draft. Boys, thank you guys so much for coming out today.
Thanks for having me on, Townie. I'm excited.
What up, Townie?
Boys, I'm excited to do this. It's been a while, and draft gets me going just like it does you guys. So to do this, what we're going to start is we're going to go by draft strategy, positional values. We'll talk about Team Sewell, Chase, Pitts, go down with some prospects and see how we go. So to start things off, Gavin, we'll go with you here first. So really tell the viewers at home and talk to me a little bit about the draft strategy. Like if you're an NFL GM, what do teams look for? How do they strategize? Is it by need, best position available? How do you really break down an NFL draft?
Yeah, so obviously there's many different ways to go about the draft, but the most simplistic terms for drafting is you want to draft guys with the highest chance to succeed in the NFL. And you do that by drafting guys that have the traits. And that's why they do the combine. That's why they do the pro days. That's why they test all these measurables to see who's going to be able to translate to succeed in the NFL. So, so you go based off of the value on your talent and your skills. So, teams like the Steelers and the Saints, they're always going to draft the best guy available, no matter their need. The Steelers are always going to, no matter how many edge rushers that they have, they're always going to take that top edge rusher, and they're always going to develop them to be badasses coming off the edge. And, that's what makes the good teams, that they're going to do whatever it takes to draft the best guys, no matter what need they have. And so once you establish talent, then after that, you go into value. Certain positions obviously are more valuable, like quarterback, than running back. So you have to be able to determine, is drafting the best available running back in the first round worth it? Probably not. You're going to need to go off of who's going to win you more football games. And certain positions translate to more wins than others. And if Mark chime in off that, that's.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I would say, like you said, like the Steelers and the Saints, just taking best available. That's why, year in and year out, they'll have just big name rookies on their roster, good draft classes. But I think also like with other teams, you address the draft, or you go about the draft, like after whatever happens in free agency with your team. So first you got free agency, like you're coming off the year, and whatever you don't get in free agency, I think that's how some teams look at the draft, is if they didn't get what they want in free agency, that's what they go after in the draft. One team, for example, is the Browns. They go out and get the best free agent safety this year. So, and all those mock drafts, scout or getting a safety in the first round, those are all completely out the door. And now they're just looking for linebackers. So I think some teams take that approach. And then, like Gavin said, I think other teams take best player available. But
my interpretation is address needs through free agency. And then you take the guys with the traits in the draft and that you develop. So when you're scouting players, you have to find guys that you can develop to be the best they can. And that's why, the Bengals went out and got a new offensive line coach, because they need to be able to develop these offensive line guys better.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, their development has been so sad. So sad.
No.
So, you don't need to people always overrate, pro day numbers and stuff, but they are important because it's been proven time and time again that certain skills translate better into the NFL, such as 40 times aren't as important as necessarily like 3-cone drills and bench press. So
yeah.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I get that. And I think that's one thing you were talking about a little bit, Gavin, with positional value. So I'll ask Mark here a little bit. So with the positional values, like, is it like when you talk about positional values, is it every single year? Like you shouldn't draft a running back in round 1, or is it just like the depth of the classes for that year? Because we talk about the O-line class this year, it's deep. Like what do we, like, how do you really do positional values year in and year out?
I think it just depends on how deep that class is for that year. I mean, this year we're going on our second year in a row where the receiver class is incredibly deep. So, I mean, you can get a guy in round 3 who in a regular draft where receivers are not as abundant. You could get a guy who's going in round 3 or 2 this year, and he'd be a first rounder maybe in some other years. It just kind of like depends. How deep the class is. I mean, some years I would say like this year's running back class is pretty deep. You got your 5 or 6 guys. None of them I think are first round, and if they are, I mean they'll be late first round. But then you got other years where you have a stud at running back like a Zeke or a Saquon or a Leonard Fournette, where teams just get so caught up in what they did in college, rightfully so.
Right.
But it just depends. Like, this year's draft class, offensive line is incredibly deep this year. So, it just depends on the year.
I would say it's both. There's positions you always don't want to invest high, but like I was saying earlier, talent comes first and then value. So like positions that you don't want to invest highly in the draft are, running back, off-ball linebackers, interior offensive linemen, blocking tight ends, and like run-stopping safeties, right? But if the talent of a Saquon Barkley and a Derwin James of a safety, if that's worth investing the high capital to go and get those guys that are going to make a difference and win you games. But it's also proven time and time again, positions that win you games and you want to invest in are the most important, like quarterback, corner, and edge rusher. Like those are the positions you want to constantly go.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense too. Because the one thing I've been looking at with specifically the Bengals at pick number 5, like you guys just talked about, the classes being deep, the O-line class is deep. Like if we don't get Penei Sewell and we were to get a skill guy, I can see us getting a solid offensive lineman round 2 or 3. Same thing if we were to take Penei Sewell at 5, there's solid receivers in round 2 and 3, like Mark was talking about. Maybe other years they're first round receivers. That's where I get the confusion a little bit with the positional value. Like the depth of the class and overall, like, do you stick to that strategy and that value year in and year out? You guys get what I'm saying on that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it just depends on how the class works. It's a mixture of both. So this year is going to work out great for the Bengals because 2 positions they need to invest in are pass catchers and offensive linemen. And both of those positions are solid this year with guys like Chase and Pitts, who are, generational talents that are going to make that difference. And you can also get solid, starting contributors in the second and third rounds of that positions. So it works out perfect for the Bengals this year.
Yeah, hopefully it works out for us either way. Hopefully, they're not going to be stupid and trade back 5, unless they get an Achilles Smith deal, but they pissed that away in 99 for Ricky Williams. Anyway, getting off that here. The topic of the last 2 weeks on Twitter has been, are you Team Chase or are you Team Sewell? Now, for all you guys at home.
That's you mean?
Yes. Oh, we'll get to it. Don't worry on that. For all you guys at home here, me and Gavin are not Team Sewell and we're not Team Chase. We are Team Pitts. And Mark, to my bottom here, he is 100% Team Sewell all the way. And I don't know. I'm feeling different. I'm not feeling Jamar Chase. I'm a little bit with Penei Sewell. Like, here's the thing. At 5, I am okay with whoever we get. But my number one choice would be Pitts, and so would Gavin's. And just like Mark, his number one choice would be Sewell. So it's time to debate. Mark, we're going to start off with you. Tell me and Gavin why it's Penei Sewell over Kyle Pitts.
It is Penei Sewell because it's the franchise. You're protecting the franchise. Do you want to see what happened last year happen again? I mean, as a Vikings fan, and Bengals are my obviously number two, seeing Riley Reef, I mean, I know it's a 1-year deal, but that's not the answer. Jonah Williams missed his whole first year. Second year, he didn't start the whole year. I think you just take this once every 5 years, once in every 10 years offensive tackle. You got to take Sewell. I think it's just, I know everybody's like, oh, Pitts and Chase, like they can make an immediate impact, but I think they're getting caught up in the flash, and it's somebody that they can root for and buy their jersey right away. You know, you're not going to buy a Penei Sewell jersey. You're just not, unless you're just a diehard. But I mean, you get excited when you like hear about Chase or Pitts coming to the Bengals. You're like, oh, new weapon for Joey. And whereas offensive linemen, I mean, like if you're not a diehard, I mean, you don't even know who that is. Where, I mean, these dudes are catching touchdown passes, and you're going to know that name. But I mean, Penei Sewell will lock down the left side. You kick Jonah over to right. I know you just signed Riley Reef, and it's looking like it's going to be a pass catcher, honestly. But I don't know. I mean, honestly, you could even kick Jonah into guard. I believe he could play guard, but
I think
Sewell, he's just such a pure left tackle, and it's a need that you need because your rookie that you drafted, I'm not saying he's bad, but he just hasn't been available. I mean, and then you got to throw in, if Jonah's not available, you got to throw in a god-awful offensive lineman, like a Bobby Hart. And you're like, oh my God, we're really trusting Bobby Hart to protect our franchise. That's my take. You just got to protect the franchise.
I'll just start off by saying all three of these guys, Chase, Pitts, and Sewell, they're top tier talents, and you can't go wrong with either of them. Like the Bengals cannot mess up this pick either way direction they go. But some of the things
could. You never know.
I mean, they could if they draft Sewell and they can't develop another offensive lineman. That would be a way. But like all of the traits that these guys have will translate to the NFL just about if they develop them. But Pitts can do things that people have not seen before. He's ginormous. He's got hands of God, and he runs as fast as wide receivers. Like, he's literally a talent we haven't seen, and we're seeing it with Travis Kelce. That's about the only comparison you have. He's a plug-and-play difference maker right now for the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something the Bengals don't really have right now at tight end. They have Drew Sample and Uzama. I don't even know if Pitts, to be honest, will even line up with his hand in the dirt. Like, he might just play in the slot.
I don't think you put him on the line of scrimmage.
No, I think he'll probably just play out wide like Kelce or Jimmy Graham or whatever all the time. And he'll be a red zone monster. He'll be Joe Burrow's best friend. And I just think the value of taking the best pass catcher, Chase would be fine too, but Pitts is the way to go. I just think the value of taking Pitts, who's not even comparable to the next best tight end, over investing into a day two lineman is much more significant than investing the difference from Sewell to a day two wide receiver.
If they go day two lineman, I think they go interior, because I think all the good tackles, I think they'd be reaching on a tackle if they took him at the 38 spot, because I believe that all the tackles will be gone by then. All the good tackles will be gone by then. But, I mean, there's still plenty of good, start right away, good interior linemen. And the Bengals need that too. They need linemen everywhere.
I think the signing of Reef, because he's such a good pass blocker, I think they're planning on him protecting the right side right now. And I think they're going to invest on the interior, because their big hole right now is right guard. So because they have Spain and they have what's the other one? Who's the center?
Suafilo?
No, who's the center?
Hopkins.
Oh, Hopkins.
Yeah, like him and Hopkins are solid, but right guard's the big hole. So I'm thinking they're going to go interior. Yeah, I know Sewell or Reef could kick down, or Jonah could kick down, but they could get the top interior. They could go, Dickerson or Leatherwood or any of those guys, and they'd get some value.
Yeah. See, the thing that brings me to Kyle Pitts, and is something that Gavin touched on really well. We don't have a Travis Kelce. We don't have a George Kittle. We don't have a Darren Waller. Like, I like CJ Uzama. I like the connection he built with Burrow, but it's not a difference maker. You know what I mean? It's not an immediate game changer like Travis Kelce is. And another big thing, along with having that position at tight end, I've been saying this for the last 2 years. Auden Tate needs to get more playing time. I understand he's a 7th round draft pick, but that dude needs to be on the field as much as possible. His catch radius is insane. Any jump ball he has, just like Gavin was saying with Pitts, red zone target. Auden Tate is another red zone target. And if you give that man the immediate reps and all the reps that he needs, he's going to succeed in this league. He's proven that he can do it in his limited reps, but he needs to be able to be on the field and have that playing time. And that's just why I think, would I like Ja'Marr Chase? Yeah, I'd like Ja'Marr Chase. But if Auden Tate's not getting that playing time to really develop, I mean, I don't know what we're doing with him then. Because I've always liked Auden Tate as a pass catcher.
I think that's a good reason to go Pitts over Chase. I don't know if they're all sold on Auden Tate because it's looking like they're going to go Chase, especially if the Falcons take Pitts, which seems to be likely.
Yeah, I mean, everything is leading up. The signing of Riley Reef, it is leading up to look like they're just going to take a pass catcher. And right. I mean, it's going to work out either way. I think out of all 3 guys, I think it's going to work out. But I don't know. I
think there's some day 2 value on some interior linemen that'll be good. But there's also day 2 value on wide receivers. It just depends on which way the draft goes.
I mean, personally, we talked about this earlier in the week. I wouldn't be opposed if they went Penei Sewell and then took one of the top interior.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool
too. Build a brick wall around Joe Burrow. Just provide him with the best offensive line in the league.
That'd be sweet.
That. If you give Joe Burrow time, I mean, we all know he's very dangerous. He just understands.
I just think the things Kyle Pitts can do for your team, like you can't replicate the things he can do.
You're not going to see another tight end.
He's basically a wide receiver that weighs,
he
50 pounds more than others and runs as fast as them.
Oh yeah.
He's Darren Waller and Travis Kelce's baby. That's what literally he's a cross between both of them.
Yeah. No, I mean he's a beast. So one thing I want to get into real quick, I've been hearing this the entire week before we get into our prospects for the draft. Mark, I want to kind of turn it to you a little bit. So when you talk about Penei Sewell and you're talking about the franchise, okay, Zach Taylor in his 2 years is 6-25-1. Okay, is Zach Taylor playing for the franchise? Is he drafting for the franchise, or is he drafting to keep his job in 2021? What is the headspace like for Zach Taylor right now between those 3 guys?
I definitely think it's draft for right now and get as many wins as you can to keep your job. I think so. And I mean, that points towards pass catching, but I don't know Marvin was there forever. So who knows? Maybe Zach Taylor's there forever. Who knows? Who knows what the Brown family want to do with Zach Taylor and if they like the way he's going. And if that's the case and we just don't know and behind closed doors, they secretly are like, oh, Zach Taylor, you could lose as many games as possible, but you're still here for 5 years. Maybe we don't know that. And then he could build for the future. But yeah, I mean, I think Zach Taylor's headspace it's got to be right. It has to be like, I need to win now. I need to win now. So
I think it's definitely a right now thing. I'm pretty sure he was quoted earlier in the year. They made it clear that they were addressing defense in free agency, and Zach Taylor was quoted like, "We're gonna go get our offensive guys. Like, I'm gonna run the offense I want to run, and we're gonna win some goddamn games." Like, and players, I feel like I'm getting the vibe from players that they want to run through a brick wall for them, and the Bengals are finally getting the balls to cut these veteran guys like AJ Green and Geno, things you have to do to against the franchise. And players are fired up about it. So
Yeah.
I think they're going to win. They're going all for
I
it.
mean, all the old Bengals traits are. I think we're noticing they're kind of leaving. I mean, sticking with guys way too long. I mean, I think those days, from what it's looking like, it's over.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, I think the turning point honestly was that Monday night Steelers game. No one had us any clue that we were going to win, and Zach Taylor came out and said, "Boys, we're going to go win this game." And I think Mike Daniels brought up a good point today. He was on the Jim Rome show. He's like, "Dude, I can't say enough good things about Coach Taylor. Like, he's a player's coach. Like, he knows what to do. Like, he's going to work well with Burrow in year 2." So that's where I get in the headspace of like, okay, yes, Penei Sewell is a franchise guy. But if Zach Taylor's in the mode to win now, I don't really know if you can be thinking 5 years from now. You got to think right now. And I think
Yeah.
you both hit on
I
that
mean,
pretty
this
well.
year is huge for Zach Taylor. This is Zach Taylor's most important year as Bengals coach by far. Not
Oh,
even
yeah.
That's such a good point, Tony, and I think that's a good reason why I think they're going to go pass catcher, because they signed Reef. And in interior linemen, there's not as much development from the college level than there is a tackle. Because a tackle, you got to be able to establish footwork and leverage. And in the interior lineman, you can get away with being huge, but also having the traits. You know, I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, I mean, it definitely does. And that's where I just think, you know, are we going to go with Sewell? Are we going to go with Pitts? Are we going to go with Chase? I don't know. But like you said before, Gavin, you really can't mess this up at 5. You really cannot mess it up unless you're trading back or somehow Rashawn Slater gets in the mix. Which
John Ross pick.
all right, we won't talk about John Ross. We're actually moving on to talk about some better prospects than John Ross. So we all came up with prospects that we like. They don't have to necessarily fit the Bengals, but what I like about doing this segment right here is understanding, like, yeah, the Bengals might not draft these guys, but they might.
Tom, sorry to cut you off. Do you guys have that notification up in your top left corner? It says
Yeah, I'm working it right here, right now. I just gotta.
I didn't know if it was gonna shut down on me. Or...
No, it's all. No, you should be good. I just gotta do this one thing here real quick. But anyway, so what we were talking about here is just, you know, within the prospects, we're going to see these guys either in Bengals uniforms or we're going to see them against us on the field some given Sunday. So I'll start with Gavin here. Gavin, just of the guys that you've seen and watched film on, what are the prospects that you really like coming out of this year's draft?
Yeah, so the guys that I picked are scenarios that I think would be dream scenarios for the Bengals to take in the second round, because everyone knows we're going to take one of the 3 guys at 5. So these are guys that I think would be solid guys on day 2. My favorite interior prospect is Landon Dickerson from Bama.
Hog.
He's so big. He is 6'6", 325. He graded out 92.8 run block grade on PFF, which was the highest of all centers this year. He's a bully. He bullies people. He's aggressive, and he's pancakes. He had the record for most pancakes this season, broke PFF's record for that. And I think there's a realistic chance he falls to the Bengals because he tore his ACL in the SEC championship game. And I think that's going to actually work out for the Bengals because people are going to be scared of that. But